Hello, hello, I am Merkaba18. Today I'm bringing another in-depth guide for an operator in Rainbow Six Extraction. Had a recent request from one of the viewers on the YouTube channel to do an in-depth guide on Nomad. So here we are. Let's talk about her. There's a lot to get to. Her ability is a stun airjab knockback mine that she launches off of her gun. We'll save a lot of the in-depth tips for in the in-game footage here in just a minute, so stick with me as we walk through these operator advancement tabs and the loadout and all that stuff, and then we'll get into some in-game footage and I'll give you some beginner tips and some advanced tips to how to use her. So her air jab basically works as a knockback mine in a circle of an area of effect. Anyone caught in that blast will automatically be knocked back. It will also clear the area of hazards, and as you move through the upgrades here and advance her to max level, you're going to really see that this air jab is one of the best utilities in the game in terms of stuns. Her ability kind of overlaps with Ela to a degree, and to a lesser extent potentially Sledge, or and as I've mentioned in the previous videos here, one of the things that you will do with an air jab launcher here is that you will then have a freed up grenade slot and some utility that you wouldn't have otherwise. So if you're bringing Nomad, you don't necessarily need to pair her with paralysis or stun grenades, because she essentially has a bunch of them herself. So keep that in mind as we walk through this, and then I will show you again in game what it looks like. So at level 2, you get a increase from 3 to 4, which is huge. And then at level 3, you get a primary assault rifle update at ARX 200. We'll go through her loadout here in just a minute. And Nomad is one of the more balanced operators in the game in terms of speed and armor, but anytime you are bringing in additional speed to the equation and additional armor, you're doing good, which is one of the reasons you want to continue to use max level operators in Maelstrom, because you're bringing a fully kitted out maximum speed, maximum armor, and their ability is going to bring so much more to the table at max level than it will at level 1. And you're going to really see that here in just a second with Nomad and why it's so important. So at level 5, you get a stronger recovery perk, which means you res with among the most health in the game whenever you're resed. So if you have a doc on your team and he range reses you, you will res with an additional 30 health. At level 6, you get a really important update with the AUG A3. I use that in a variety of scenarios, and a super important update with her handgun in the background there. And then at level 7, one of the best upgrades in the entire game for a utility operator. And here is where the mines really become important. They now obliterate in one shot the following enemies: nests, blinding spores, breachers, grunts, spikers, rooters, sowers, lurkers, and sludge. So basically any enemy level all the way up to sowers and lurkers and sludge are automatically one shot when you shoot her air jab. I'm going to save the in-game tips and why that's such an important update here at level 7 for the in-game footage. So stick around and watch that in just a minute. At level 8, you get a huge reduction to damage taken by 40%. Huge. That's, I think, one of the biggest upgrades in the game. So level 8 is a huge thing. And this is one of the, like I just said, one of the ways in which level 8 Nomad is going to be so much better than level 1 Nomad. At level 9, you get a shotgun, and, my personal opinion on shotguns is one thing, but I've actually never really used this gun in game, and I've got to do some more testing with it, but I just don't prefer shotguns myself, and I think she has better options, so we'll leave that up to personal choice. But at level 10, you get an increase to 6, so you basically go from you get 3 at the start, and then you get 6 at 10. This is a big upgrade, but it's a little bit underwhelming. Truthfully, this is level 7 upgrade is the more important one, but 6 is better than 4, so I'll take it. I hope that at some point maybe she'll get a little bit of a buff at 10 here, because it's a little underwhelming to just get an increase, especially most people's. You kind of would like to see, honestly, her ability to recharge over time, especially given that Ela's does and that Sledge doesn't have a timer on his. He can just swing his hammer as many times as he wants to. So I don't know. I'm a little underwhelmed by it, but that's my only real gripe with her kit, is that it doesn't recharge. But that's a personal point of privilege, and we'll see how that unfolds over time. So here we go. I tend to use her AK 74 for the most part. You don't want to really use a silencer here. I tend to use the compensator and a 2.5x scope. The other option that I tend to go to is the ARX. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is that the recoil patterns are pretty similar. The rate of fire is slower on the AK, but it does a little bit less damage, and it has a higher clip. The ARX, you're going to end up reloading quite a bit. It does quite a bit of damage for a pretty fast-firing AR, but the trade-off is you're going to be reloading quite a bit. You're going to this kind of reminds me a little bit of Hibana's gun in that you're just going to be dumping clips very, very quickly, and you could run out of ammo in quite a bit of a rush there. I do think that the AUG is a really good option, especially if you take the suppressor off and put the compensator on. You can see for an SMG, this is probably one of her better options, and one that I tend to use in more fast-paced mobile situations in which I need to put a lot of shots on a target, etc. And then you can also sort of reduce the transition speed, which is what I would recommend if you're going to use it in that way. But you can also make a substantial dent in the vertical grip recoil there. So these two are more like backline defender, support class operator type of options. This one tends to be much more like mobile run and gun type of style for me. And it even will reload less than the ARX. So you're going to end up using this in much more mobile situations, I think. Now the TSG or TCS, I can't speak today. I apologize. I've never actually really used it in game, but I also just don't really like shotguns. And it seems like it's just a semi-automatic, pretty hard-hitting shotgun. Don't really want to put a suppressor on it if you're going to do that. But as you can see, it does do quite a bit of damage. I just don't prefer shotguns. You know, there's better options in the game for me. And the only way I will ever use those is if somebody requests them. So let's go ahead and now take a look at the in-game footage. But before we get there, I want to make sure that you guys are subscribing to the channel here. Please make sure to hit that sub button. It makes my day. We're well on our way to getting monetized here on YouTube, and your support is unbelievable. Make sure to like and comment below, who should I do an operator guide on next? Also, just want to gently remind you all that I am live on Twitch over at Merkaba18. There's a link in the video here. Every single Monday through Thursday at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Please make sure to go check it out. We do in-depth live Maelstrom guides for each week. We play with viewers on each of the assignments. I help do carries and operator rescues and all that good stuff. So make sure to check out the channel, and let's go ahead and take a look at this in-game footage. All right, here we are in game with Nomad. As always, this is a max level operator guide, so you're going to see what this is like for a max level operator. So let's go ahead and start with a secondary. I did not mention in the menu walkthrough there that she has at the start of her loadout, she has a revolver, essentially, or a long-range pistol with a gigantic scope. One of the things that I will tell you about that particular gun is that you cannot put a suppressor on it, and the scope is really useful for long-range, high damage. So it's a great loud option if your skill level is higher. We'll go through some advanced tips about like moments in which you want to be loud or quiet in a different video, but that is a good loud option, if you will, and you need to put a lot of damage down range in a very short amount of time. I tend to run a loud primary and silent secondary just to have a versatility option. And so you can see this is the, because you can put a silencer on this one, this is the PRB 92, which is what I tend to use. Does a good bit of damage. It's really quiet, pretty fast firing, and it's great. And the other thing I will talk about real quick before we get into the actual ult aspect of Nomad here is that I tend to run her with explosives or utility that is not related to stuns, because she brings a ton of stuns to the table, and as you will see here, I have loaded in with C4. So we got a C4 there, and then whatever revive kit, you know, belt, depending on what your skill level is and what your team needs, those are the things you can bring to the table. So let's talk about some of the basics. Also, I am running the AK here with Nomad, so you can see that. Let's start with some basics. Your airjab has 6 at max level. They will eviscerate a large percentage of the enemies on a map, especially at lower difficulty levels. And it launches straight off of her gun. So as you can see here, I have my AR or AK-74. I can use it as a gun, and then if you hit your alt button, it switches to the air jab, which attaches directly to your gun, and then you can launch out air jabs. So we'll show you what that looks like in a non-ADS moment. So you can kind of see there's an area of effect. It's brief, but you can see it. Anything that runs into that circle is going to automatically be either stunned and knocked back, or eviscerated entirely. So there are some basic tips that I will give you with this. You kind of want to use this as a area denial, as a way to protect yourself if you're being rushed. It's really good for taking down nests and stuff like that. So, but it also eviscerates entire groups of enemies. The other thing to keep in mind here is if you drop them out and you don't use them, you can go back over and pick them up. Now, this ability does not recharge itself, and it's one of the more confounding elements of her kit and one of the more confounding elements in the game, in my opinion. Given the number of other operators like Fuse, which we'll do an in-depth guide on later, and as you saw in the other guide that I did on Ela, those abilities recharge, and hers do not. Nomad's do not. And it's sort of confounding to me how they made that choice, and my hope is that at some point in the future we will see her ability recharge, because it's honestly, it deserves it. It's one of the abilities that I think is just defensive enough and just passive enough to require a recharge. But that's a hopeful thing. That is not, at the moment, it does not recharge at the timing of this video. So what you'll need to do is if you expend all of your Nomad air jabs, you're going to want to use ability refreshes. And so keep that in mind as you're pairing this operator up with other operators. If you have the option of bringing Ela or Nomad, they're going to bring different things to the table, but one of the reasons you might pick Ela over Nomad might be just simply that Ela's ability recharges. You have fewer of them, and it's obviously a lot harder to use them in specific ways, but they do recharge. So keep that in mind. One other thing about that specific point is that if you are using the recharge boxes for Nomad, you don't want to pair them with a ton of other operators like Gridlock or Doc that also need those boxes, because there are a limited number of them. So when you pair Nomad up with other operators, because of her ability not recharging and needing those boxes, it may be useful for you to bring operators that use fewer of them. That will increase her effectiveness. So let's talk about some advanced or some basic tips here. So as you can see, the area of effect is all about placement. So essentially when you place it in a window, anything that climbs through that window is going to automatically be stunned and eviscerated. So let's kind of show you what that looks like in a basic way. Let's go find an enemy and kite him over here so that we can see what the basic eviscerate looks like on a grunt. There you go. Come here, you. So he's going to go ahead and howl. Oh no, I'm in trouble. Not. Okay, so we're going to run back over through here. The spiker does not like me, but he's going to like me even less here in just a second. Assuming, oh, let's get this guy too. So come on through this window, and as soon as he walks through, boom, knockback. And you can kind of see there a double effect. So one of the cool things about this is it will not do anything in terms of, one of the basic advanced tips that I can give you is that for elites, it's less of a concern to eviscerate than it is with non-elites. And I'll talk about what that means in just a second. Let's go ahead and capture this grunt so he'll leave me alone. But you can kind of see that's the basic like little knockback. You throw it down at him and he'll get stunned back. And that's a good way of keeping enemies away from you if they don't automatically become eviscerated. The other thing you did see there was that the gasser automatically eviscerated there. And certain enemies like bloaters, smokers, breachers, all of those like low level, all the way up through like lurkers and sowers will automatically be destroyed by the air jab. So one of the ways that you want to use them is to do so. So like let's say we're doing decontamination and there's a decontamination nest right here. So let's say there's a nest there and a nest there. You want to use your ability in a way that can potentially overlap with those two nests. If they become alerted, just like they often do, they will automatically eviscerate. Let's go find a recharge box while I'm talking here so that you can kind of see what that looks like. And so you want to use the Nomad air jabs as a way to automatically eviscerate. You want to use them as a way to defend spiker towers or sabotage towers, etc. So you can deny areas. Let's say we're defending a tower on a solo right here, and you have this door closed, and the only way through is right here, or right here. You obviously wouldn't place the Nomad air jab right here, the same way you wouldn't put a Nomad or a Ela sting right there, or an Ela mine right there. You'd put them in areas where enemies are potentially going to run through. So there's a ton of utility when it comes to specific objectives that you can use her for in order to, one, deny area of effect, or let's say there's 15 grunts running at me for some reason. I can just shoot an air jab right there. Boom, they run through it. All of them are going to be instantly eviscerated, assuming they are not elites. Now let's talk about that for a second, because that's an important element of this kit. You want to be very, very careful with the air jabs because you can accidentally screw it up pretty easily. Let's say we're doing a nest tracking. Let's say we're doing nest tracking and there's a nest right here. We have a tracker planted on it and then we throw an air jab right there and that nest becomes alerted. You will then automatically eviscerate the nest or potentially eviscerate the nest, and that will then remove the tracker from that nest, meaning you have now one less out of the number that you need to complete the objective. So you want to make sure that you're not eviscerating nests accidentally. If you have a nest tracking item already planted, then eviscerate them, it'll destroy the nest. So be careful to use it in a way that is productive. It will not destroy elites in one shot, it'll only knock them back, but just keep that in mind as you're moving through the objective. Another thing to keep in mind is that with nests, for example, it will only eviscerate them if they are alerted. You don't have to worry about, let's say we're doing just decontamination again. There's one here, and one here. You can place 1, 2, 3 air jabs, and they won't go off until that nest is now alerted. So let's show you kind of what that looks like here. So let's go find one of these nests over here. And as you can see, if you don't have any ability recharges, it becomes a lot harder to use Nomad and in a way that's any kind of effective. So let's run back over here and find one of these nests somewhere. And then I'll demonstrate for you. So that nest right there is not alerted. So if we put an air jab right there, it's not going to do anything. But if we shoot it or alert it, that's a bad example. If you alert it, it would then automatically eviscerate it. Let's find them that we can, if we can, that is automatically alerted. Now, crucially, one of the differences between Ela and like Sledge, for example, is that she doesn't really do anything in terms of breach. She doesn't specifically, if you throw this at a soft wall, it's only going to stick to the wall. It's not in it if it explodes. It's not going to destroy anything in terms of walls. But keep in mind, one of the most useful things about air jabs are as it relates to rescue. So let's say we're doing a rescue, and this specific area right here there's a rescue target in the corner. It's surrounded by bloaters and exploders. If you come in and you just start shooting the bloaters, it could potentially blow up and do a lot of damage. Let's say there's a bloater, a couple of breachers, and then you shoot all of them. 2 of them explode. The breacher or bloater the gas is right there. You can't quite get to the target, and it's dead within a couple of seconds, right? Well, that's kind of a problem. How do you deal with that? Well, you could stun. You could prevent them from alerting. You can do takedowns, silent takedowns through vigil. You can smash them with Sledge if you want to, or you could take air jabs, come through here. Let's say you breach through, hit them right there with an air jab, instantly eviscerated. And importantly, if they are eviscerated, they will not explode and do damage to your target. So then you can grab your target, run to the air pad if you need to, and then move on. This is also really helpful with, like, for example, the mutation related to Immortal Smashers or Revive, because it will count as an evisceration for Revive targets, meaning it will automatically destroy them instead of downing them. So you don't have to worry about whether or not the target's going to be dead. Assuming it automatically eviscerates that target, it will be instantly downed. It's great for kiting Immortal Smashers. It's great for kiting Elite Smashers, all kinds of stuff. Or let's say your team's in a lot of danger and there's a ton of nests around. You can, like, for example, this one's alerted. Boom. Throw that out. Because it is alerted, it should go off. That's a bad example. Just ignore that example. Normally they will go off if there's an alerted nest there. I don't know why that one didn't, but it will automatically destroy decontaminated nests if they are automatically alerted, etc. So just keep in mind that Nomad brings a ton of utility in that regard, and she's probably one of the better stun / objective defenders in the game. With the exception of her inability to recharge her ultimate, she brings a ton of utility to the table. So thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like the video, comment below, and to subscribe to the channel. Please also check us out live on Twitch, Monday through Thursday at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching, and see you again next time.